In this video, I'll show you how we helped one of our e-commerce clients add 26,000 USD to their bottom line. So 26,000 USD in profit in just 60 days without increasing their ad spend. So a little bit of a different case study here, but I think this will be super valuable for a lot of people. In fact, we actually reduced the ad spend by 24,000 during this time period. So while reducing by 24,000, we increased the bottom line by 26,000. And that decrease in ad spend was actually 61% on Meta ads. So quite a different case study here. And essentially what we did is we decreased what we gave to Meta by 24K, and we increased what we gave or provided to our client by 26K. And you might ask yourself, well, how did you do this? Because usually you see a lot of case studies out there and videos like this where people tell just about how they scale, how they take the sales and everything to another level together with the ad spend. But in this case, we're actually reducing the ad spend, and also the revenue was reduced, but the bottom line was increased. And that's what I want to talk about in this video, because for a lot of businesses these days, profitability is what you should be focusing on, and it's essential. And in some cases, you might need to scale down in terms of like the volume of revenue, but you can still do that while getting a better, much better in this case, bottom line, right? The money that you actually take home, because at the end of the day, that's what you care about. So in this video, I'll show you how. We actually removed the unnecessary spending that wasn't leading to incremental sales. That's number one. And we focused more of the spend on the ads that actually drove extra sales, that actually drove sales that came into the store because of the advertising that we did on Meta. And in the next few minutes, I'll show you how to do the same for your business in just 3 easy steps. And if you stick around to the end of the video, I'll give you a bonus as well. I've made a 2025 Meta ad scaling guide for free. So if you stick around to the end of the video, I'll show you where you can find that as well. Now, if you are new to the channel, before we get into this, my name is Oli. I run Strand Media, performance marketing agency, helping e-commerce and info product businesses scale profitably with ads on Meta. And this YouTube channel is basically just where I share the lessons and learnings that I have along the way. And sometimes it causes people to book in a call with me, and that's pretty much why I make these videos. If you're into that kind of content and you want to learn more about Meta ads and improve your performance, then feel free to subscribe and like the video. And also, if you have any questions to anything that I'm about to share, feel free to add a comment down below. I usually answer any comment that I get on my YouTube channel. So let's get into it. So before I go in to show you the 3-step strategy that we applied to this business to fix the issues that I'm about to share with you, these are the mistakes that we found during the first meeting with this business. And there was quite a few mistakes they were doing with their Meta ads. And they've been running ads for years, working with a different agency, but they were doing a lot of mistakes. And that's the first thing I want you to understand, because it's very likely you're actually making some of the same mistakes. I've seen a lot of businesses that's been running ads for a long time continue to make these mistakes. And that's what I'm going to cover now. So the first thing that we found was that most conversions within their ad account were credited to the 1-day view attribution. So I'm going to really try to simplify this as much as possible, because I don't want this video to be too complex. I want this one to be a video that even if you're not really familiar with performance marketing and Facebook ads, you can understand it. So when we talk about the attribution setting, that is how you determine when an ad should get credit for a sale. So by default, Meta uses the 7-day click, 1-day view attribution setting. That simply means that if somebody clicks on an ad and buys within 7 days, that means the ad will get credit for that sale. But also if they view the ad without clicking it, but they buy the product or buy any product from that store the same day, that ad will still get credit for the sale. Now, in this case, when I audited the ad account, we found that most of the sales were actually coming from the 1-day view attribution and not the 7-day click. So I'll show you what that looks like within the ad account. So if you see on my screen here, of the 308 purchases within this ad account, you can see that 175 of them goes under the 1-day view attribution. Only 133 goes under the 7-day click attribution. So what does this tell us? It tells me, when I'm looking at it, that a lot of the sales are coming from people that aren't clicking on the ads. And that's always a thing that I'm skeptical of because of what can happen when you include the 1-day view attribution. So these are the issues that I think about when I see something like this. The first thing is that there's less of a correlation between a sale and a view compared to an actual click. So when somebody just views your ad and they go in and buy, that view, you have to understand what is that view? That view could be that the ad pops up in their feed, but they're just scrolling right past it. You cannot know for a fact that they actually looked at the ad and recognized it and it affected their behavior. It could just be a small ad popping up in their feed and they're just scrolling right past it. So that's what you should take into account. If they actually click on the ad, it means they left the platform. If it's unless it's a lead form. If they clicked on the ad, they left, they went onto your website. That is very rarely is that a mistake. A lot of people that actually click on the ad, most of them, it's because they were interested in what they saw and they want to see more. They want to explore more and they might want to buy it as well. So that is the problem with the view attribution, because the view might just be that the ad popped up in their feed, but they didn't actually even look at it or, pay attention to it. So it's a weaker data signal for algorithm to optimize, because let's say, as this case where most of the sales are coming from the view attribution, let's say that is because over time Meta has understood that there's a certain type of people, and that could be based off of many different data points, but there's a certain type of people that usually will buy when this and this happens, when they have this and this behavior. And that could mean that they're overlapping. The algorithm is seeing some behavior from from users on Facebook and Instagram, but it's overlapping with the other advertising efforts or marketing efforts that the business is doing. So let's try to simplify this. Let's say this business was doing a lot of email marketing, and they were. So that was the case actually here. They were doing a lot of email marketing, and they had a great result with email marketing. And a lot of the email marketing, obviously it goes to existing customers. But what I saw and what we think happened was a lot of the ad spend and the impressions we were paying for was the algorithm figuring out the perfect timing to put ads in front of people that already gotten emails or seen organic posts from this business. And therefore, the view attribution resulted in a lot of sales, but the fact that people saw the ad or got them in the feed wasn't what made them go in and buy as much as it would have been if they had a click attribution only. So it's a weaker data signal because there is not a strong correlation between a view and a sale as a click and a sale. And as I just explained, there's a much higher probability for overlap with other marketing efforts. And it's impossible to know how much of an issue the overlap is, how much it's occurring. But as we saw in this case, it's very likely quite a lot of the view attribution sales were overlapping with other marketing efforts, such as email marketing and organic posting. So now you probably have a better understanding of why this could be an issue. Now, the other issue that we saw when we audited the account was that most of the ad spend was going towards existing customers. Now, when most of the ad spend is going towards existing customers, it is very hard to tell if it's actually necessary to spend that money because they have done business with you before. In this case, they had made purchases before. So it's hard to tell how necessary it is for them to actually see another ad for them to come back and buy. Sometimes people will just come back and buy when they've run out of what you're selling. And that is the case with this business. They sell cooking accessories and cooking different ingredients for baking and cooking. So the return rate is pretty high. customers do come back. And then how do you know if it's actually necessary to continue to pay for impressions to put ads in front of these customers to make them come back? Because they already have free channels through email marketing, and they already do a great job organically posting on their Instagram and keeping their stories active and all that stuff. So how necessary is it to continue to push ads in front of them? And we found out that it wasn't actually that necessary, because we implemented the 3 steps I'll show you later. But yeah, we found out that that wasn't actually necessary. So you can actually go in, I'll show you now how you can do this. So you can actually go into your ads manager, and I'll show you here as an example, and you can go ahead and you can break down the results. You can go to demographics, and then, demographics, audience segments. And if you have audience segments set up, if you haven't already done that, go ahead and do that. But if you have it set up, you can see where the spend and the results are coming from. So as you can see here, we have about most of the sales by far is coming from a new audience, so non-existing customers. A lot of the sales are coming from new audience, but some is coming from existing customers. So this campaign is also doing some retargeting, and also engage audience. That just means that they've seen your brand, they've engaged with you on social media before, but they haven't bought before. So this is very helpful, and when you're trying to understand where your spend is going, especially if you are consolidating your ad account and not having separate remarketing campaigns for existing customers. When you blend that into the main campaign, which in many cases is the best thing to do, you still need to understand where the spend is being allocated, because at the end of the day, if you only have one campaign, it's important that you're not having this happen where a lot of the spend is going unnecessarily to existing customers. And in that case, you might want to exclude existing customers or change the attribution setting. I'll show you how to do that later in the video. Now, so the issues that occur when this happens is it's hard to tell if it's necessary spend. It could be a sign of potential overlap with other channels. And another really important point to consider here is that Meta wants the ROAS and the performance within their platform, their advertising platform, to look the best, because if it does, it's more likely going to continue to spend money on their platform. So they're going to probably, if you allow it to do so, prioritize putting money in front of existing customers because they are easier to convert. So you can get the results within your ads manager to look much better. But the thing is, just because you have a high ROAS in your ads manager doesn't necessarily mean that it leads to a better bottom line. And that is something that's very important to keep in mind. If you put all your money to your existing customers and you're not prioritizing generating new customers, then a lot of this ad spend that you have with high ROAS is totally unnecessary. Like, you don't need to do it because these people will come back regardless. A lot of them. Some of them might need to see your ad, but a lot of them will not need to see your ad. So keep that in mind. And this is also a bit of a red flag that I had when I audited this account. Now, the next thing that I saw was that they were spreading their ad spend across 4 different campaigns, and that was way more than they needed at that spend level. So what that turns into is less data per ad set, because within each campaign they had multiple different ad sets as well. Wasn't necessary. They had a lot of historic data in their ad account, so they could easily consolidate, get a lot more momentum and data and algorithm optimization happening per ad set if they just consolidated more. So they were unnecessarily spreading their ad spend thin across different campaigns and ad sets. And this, another thing to keep in mind here is that the algorithm on Meta is so smart that if you don't allow it to optimize on your behalf, so if you tell it exactly what you want and you have the correct settings set up, then consolidation is usually the best way to go, almost always the best way to go for most advertisers. And that is because the algorithm is much better than you, the media buyer, to allocate the budget in the most efficient way across different ad sets and ads. So if you consolidate and you keep all of your ad sets, so your different ads, your creative elements, and you also allow the targeting to be broad, so the algorithm can figure it out itself, then generally over time, it will be better than you than figuring out how to most effectively and efficiently allocate that ad spend. So if you spread it out, you're not going to allow that to happen. And you might be also creating unnecessary overlap because you might have the same, part of the same audience within different ad sets and campaigns. And then you're just bidding against yourself. So also a red flag that I saw. And when we solved this, we saw much better results. Now, a big issue that we also found was that they were doing minimal creative testing. They were missing out on huge potential upside from doing more testing and prioritizing more of their resources towards actually doing more creative testing. Creative testing is one of the biggest levers to get better results in your meta ads. When you find an ad that really performs well and it's scalable, that's when you can take your results to a whole nother level. It's much better in many cases to reduce some of your ad spend. Let's say take 5 or 10% of the current ad spend that you have on a monthly basis, and you instead allocate that towards a creative strategist or somebody with amazing talent and expertise within creative strategy on meta ads. And instead of pushing that spend into the existing mediocre ads that you have running, you create something that is more creative, more aligned with performance marketing, and has more performance elements to it, that is usually going to give you a much better return. At some point, if you continue to do that, you will find some ads that's so much better. It performs so much better that it's a much better overall investment for you. So that's what we saw with them. They had a lot of ad fatigue. They were running the same creative elements for months, and they had an unoptimized setup for performance marketing. They were using a lot of organic posts as ads. Problem there is sometimes that could work, but a lot of times the organic stuff, especially in this case, it wasn't optimized. It didn't have the hook. It didn't have the call to action at the end. It didn't have the elements necessary to convert cold traffic. So that is definitely something that we found. And once we fixed that and we started applying creative testing, we saw much better results as well. So finally, the 3-step strategy that we used to fix this. And this is very simple. These 3 things that I'm going to talk about are very simple. What I'm not going to get into is the creative testing part. I have made multiple different videos on this channel about that. So if you're interested in learning more about creative testing, creative strategy, make sure you subscribe and also check out my previous content that I've made on that. But here, these are just like the quick fixes that we did, and we immediately saw better results for this business. So the first thing we did was we fixed the attribution settings. So instead of doing a 7-day click, 1-day view, we changed it to only the click attribution. So only the 7-day click attribution. So we only allow the campaign and the ads within the campaign to get credit for sales if people that actually clicked on them buy something from their store. So people that just view it and buy, we're not giving credit to that. And we also don't want the campaign to optimize in that direction. We don't want the campaign to go out there and find more people that only view and buy. We want it to only optimize for people that actually click and buy within a 7-day window, because that's a much stronger data signal to send back to the campaign, because there's a much stronger correlation between an actual click and a sale compared to a view. So by changing the attribution setting, we also improved the targeting. And what we saw after doing this is that a lot of the sales, now almost all of the sales, were only coming from 7-day click attribution. Haha, surprise. Over time, once you optimize and you tell Meta what you want, it will continue to find more of what you want. That's why it's so important to make sure you have settings and a setup within your ad account that is fully aligned with your ultimate business objective. So I'll show you now what that looked like. So again, this was before. So the distribution here is like 40%, almost about 40% of the results were coming from 7-day click. And most of the results, about 60%, were coming from the 1-day view. So this was when we audited the account, like the last 30 days. And then once we implemented our strategy, it switched the other way around. So about 60% of the results were now coming from 7-day click, and only 40% were coming from 1-day view. So as you can see, it totally flipped it. And that's exactly what we wanted to happen, because this led to a much better bottom line for the business, because there was a lot less inefficient ad spend happening here. Now, the second thing we did was fixing the bid strategy. So when we went in and we looked at the campaigns, we saw that they were just using the wrong bid strategy. They were not optimizing for what they actually wanted. Under the performance goal, you can see that they had a maximize number of conversions instead of maximize value of conversions. And I see this mistake so often when I audit accounts. I do not really understand why so many businesses make this mistake, because it has a big impact on your bottom line. Over time, it can make the huge difference if you continue to run with the wrong optimization here. You need to tell Meta what you actually want. And I think for a lot of advertisers, they don't understand that they don't want a lot of conversions, especially e-commerce businesses. Like for some businesses that you have the same value per conversion, regardless of what the customer buys in your store, then there's going to be no difference there. But for a lot of e-commerce businesses, you're going to have multiple different products, multiple different SKUs with different price points and different margins. And if that is the case, then you definitely want to maximize for value, because some orders that come into your store are going to have a much higher average order value. And the orders that come through with a higher value is orders that you want to prioritize in terms of the targeting moving forward. So if you have like a few orders coming in that has a much higher average order value, then these orders or these people that made these orders are much more valuable to you. So you want to tell Meta to optimize and even bid a little bit more if they can find similar people to put your ads in front of. So that's the difference between these two, because if you only have maximized number of conversions, then the algorithm doesn't consider the different values of the conversions that's coming through in your store. And it makes a big difference, because if you can continue to optimize for people that just spend more money in your store, then it's going to be much easier for you to be profitable. Now, the next thing we did was, of course, as I said, we changed the attribution setting. As you can see, they used to have 1-day view included. We switched that to only 7-day click. And as you can see, we also implemented a ROAS target, a ROAS goal. And that is because we wanted to increase the daily ad spend, but of course, protect profitability. So we added on a ROAS goal so that the campaign didn't spend unnecessarily unless we were hitting the profitability goal that we had for the campaign. Now, and the third thing we did to improve performance was consolidating their ad account. So we prioritized the best performing campaigns, and we made sure that we reduced the spend and turn off the campaigns that just weren't generating incremental sales and incremental results for the business. So the campaigns that were generally just getting 1-day view results from existing customers, we turned them off, because number one, these customers are existing customers, so they already know where to find the store, and they're already getting emails from the business. They're already probably seeing the organic posts on their business's Instagram, and also almost no sales were coming from the click attribution. So I'll actually show you what I mean here. So as an example, you see this bottom campaign here. We have 25 sales coming from the 1-day view, and only 2 sales are credited to the 7-day click. That means only 2 people in this 30-day time period actually clicked on an ad and went in and bought something within the 7-day window. The total was 27, so it's just 2 of them actually correlated to an actual click. So this one is probably just pushing ads in front of existing customers a lot of times to get credit for sale, but it's not actually generating the sale. It's not doing the heavy lifting. It's overlapping with other efforts. And as you can see here, when we implemented all of this from the period of 1st of November 2024 to 31st of December, compared to last year, we improved the net profit by 28%, which is about 26K USD. At the same time, we increased the profit margin by about 50%, and we had a small reduction in the revenue by 13%. So not a huge reduction there, but at the end of the day, a much better bottom line, which is what we ultimately care about, a much more efficient ad spend. So because you sticked around to the end of the video, I'm now going to tell you where you can find my scaling guide for Meta ads in 2025. There's about 14 pages here of the strategies and the most important things that you need to keep in mind if you want to scale profitably. So the link to get that is going to be in the description of this video. Go in there, put in your email, and I'll send it right to your inbox. It's going to be very helpful for you, either for yourself or somebody in your team that is responsible for your meta ads. So make sure you go and grab that. Spent quite a lot of time making it for you guys. So make sure you go grab that. And if you have any questions to anything that I've talked about in this video, leave a comment down below. I'll be happy to answer you. And I wish you best of luck in 2025. And yeah, please like the video, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.